Okay, should we get the next session underway then? So, as mentioned before, we've got Stephen from Barclays who's going to take us through some of the innovation and possibilities of what can happen once we have seamless payments. As a reminder, we've got the ability for you to submit questions via the app, which I can then pick up from here, and they don't all have to be about SAP and SAP Pioneer, so feel free to ask Stephen whatever questions you want, and if you want to introduce yourself and crack on.
I will do. Thank you. So, hello everybody. I'm Stephen James. I'm a director of partnerships at Barclays Card Payments. So, firstly, thank you for coming in to listen. I think when my name was announced a few minutes ago and everybody walked out, I was slightly worried, but it's good to see a few of you still here. It's great to be back in person as well, isn't it, and actually be doing these events in person. We had one a few weeks ago in Dublin with SAP, though, and the whole of my team actually left with COVID. So I'm hoping from this session, the worst that you all leave with these few days, the worst you leave with is a hangover rather than COVID. So Barclays Card Payments is part of the Barclays Group. I assume as it's a financial conference, you all know who Barclays is, but if not, please grab me afterwards and I'll share a bit more, I can bore you with a bit more of the history of Barclays. But before I launch into the presentation, just want to quickly touch on who Barclays Card Payments are. So we're the arm of Barclays that looks after taking and making payments, frankly. And from a taking payments perspective, it's your acquiring, your kind of gateway, your fraud, etc. products. From a making payments perspective, it's issuing, so card issuing, it's supplier payments, B2B payments, and I'll be focusing more on supplier and B2B payments today. But also we have, because we've got access to such rich data within Barclays Card Payments, because we're one of the largest acquirers across Europe, but also the largest issuer, particularly in the UK, and we have a wealth of bank data. And within Barclays Card Payments, we have a payment optimization team that really kind of puts data and insights across for the whole of the business. And then the final area is we do a number of other value adds because we are seen as a gateway to the overall bank. So whether it's things like partner financing or digital products like Cubed and loyalty, etc. So I hope that's given you a bit of background in terms of who Barclays Card Payments are. So what am I going to talk to you about today? I'm going to talk to you about, I suppose, a path that we have followed on the basis of customer feedback, and I'll touch on that at the beginning. But I'll talk about, I suppose, what have we delivered, and in particular, how is that applicable within SAP? And then I'm going to focus on, I suppose, the two products that we've really built and delivered off the back of working with SAP. So firstly, I suppose from a B2B and supplier payment perspective, there are two customer problems that we've identified that in a way kind of start our whole journey with SAP. So when we went out to a number of our customers, one of the fundamental problems they had with supplier payments was the fact that they had a huge, what they refer to as long tail of suppliers. So they had a number of suppliers on board that were one-off suppliers, suppliers that they didn't have much history with, etc. And these suppliers were often taking 4 to 6 months, a very long time to onboard and costing a lot of money. So it was a real pain for a number of these companies. So that's one of the problems that we kind of started this journey with. The second one is that from a supplier payments perspective, our customers were actually using their ERP systems to do everything from a supplier payments basis, apart from the actual payment itself. So they were having to come out of the system to actually make those payments, and this was leading to risk, control, compliance, and also reconciliation issues because they were having to manually put things between different spreadsheets, etc. And it also led to a thing that you may have heard of called maverick spend. So there was spend and suppliers that were being onboarded that didn't actually go through the official process, and that became a real problem. But when I talk about virtual card, I'll also talk about how we've solved those problems, but we've also provided bottom line benefits and other returns to businesses with things such as working capital. And then the payments analytics tool which we refer to as Barclays Payments Intelligence, really helps both the story, but also customers understand their supply chain. And we've heard from so many sessions over these last few days how important data is, and really kind of turning that data into actionable insights is one of the things we've been able to put together. So first of all, I suppose when we went out and we obviously went to a number of customers and we got that feedback about what they want us to do. The second challenge about being integrated became really, really important. So for customers, they want to be able to, not just from a supply chain perspective, but also when it comes to taking payment side of things, they want to be able to, I suppose, take new products, also use new products on a regular basis within the systems that they are using on a day-to-day basis. It makes it, it reduces friction, it makes things more seamless. And the feedback really was, if you can do this, these products are great, but actually, how can you bring this to life within the systems that we are using? So, a big part of what we've done is looking at how can we integrate within the SAP systems themselves? And also, I should say, one of the big pieces of feedback when we actually commissioned this customer research was that SAP, particularly on the Ariba and the ERP side, was the number one platform essentially that they wanted us to integrate to. So we had that feedback that this is where they wanted us to be. Bit of a complicated slide, but just before I kind of go into the detail of the product, I suppose what we're trying to show here is taking some of the challenges and what the solutions deliver. Where have we integrated to across the SAP infrastructure? So from a taking payments perspective, so back to the acquiring gateway side of things, we've got so many fantastic products that are really kind of helping customers navigate some of the challenges that they're looking to, become more digital with, whether it's moving to direct to consumer, whether it's tackling some of the regulatory or fraud challenges that a number of customers are seeing. We've got all these great solutions there, particularly, I suppose, on the reg side. One thing we say internally, which just hearing a lot of the fintech chat here, is we're definitely not a sexy fintech, but we describe ourselves as rocking at reg, which sounds a bit boring, but actually is so important when it comes to things like taking payments. And with all these great solutions, though, even though a business case can be there, a CIO's roadmap, as you all will know from conversations you'll be having with your customers, is very lengthy. There's a lot on there. Lots of stuff gets onto their cases. So how, without an integration, without making it easy, it's very difficult sometimes to get, some of these products across the line. And what an integration does is we've built native plugins to both SAP Commerce Cloud, which helps us address enterprise customers who are out there, but also the digital payments add-on, which addresses a wider swath, but also really helps from a reconciliation perspective. And the key point from a CIO, etc., looking at implementing this product is that it's configuration rather than development. So it's an easy lift rather than a huge piece of work that they need to prioritize over other things. And then when it comes to the taking payment side, we've actually integrated to both SAP Ariba and S4 HANA, and we've got our virtual card solution in there, our virtual card app in there as well. And I'll explain some of the benefits of that in a minute. But key again is the fact that it's configuration rather than development, so it's easy to implement, but it ticks a number of the boxes in terms of being where customers are actually using it as well, so it becomes really important. But then the third tenet of how we've worked with SAP on our journey is to help us, I suppose, kind of educate and deal with some of the queries we were having on a regular basis from our customers about supply chain intelligence and how can they get more visibility, etc. We've used SAP Cloud Analytics to really kind of power the engine that we've put together. And as I'll explain later, this tool is a really powerful tool that customers have have embraced, and it's really enabled them to make some intelligent decisions. So, the virtual card app. Let me touch on that. So, I suppose firstly, what a virtual card does. So a virtual card will allow, it's a card that's used for a one-off payment. So it always kind of allows the transaction that you intended to happen to happen. So it means that they can't add an extra zero on if somebody's got itchy fingers on their keyboard. It means they can't pay the wrong person, etc. So there's a number of reasons where a virtual card comes in and obviously covers fraud, etc. And in terms of payments going out, we actually have payouts via the standard scheme card rails, but also via non-card bank transfer routes as well. So you can make direct payments that way. And we have this product obviously now integrated to the SAP platforms, but we also have this product out there with thousands of customers using it, really seeing the benefits, and we're processing billions through here. So it's a really robust platform we've got supporting this. In terms of the integration, though, and actually having this app live within the systems, we believe we're unique within the SAP ecosystem at the moment. So whether it's first to market or not, there is nobody else out there who's developed this technology. And that, I suppose, thinking on the journey we've been on is partly because it's quite a heavy lift to kind of say it nicely. It was a lot of work, but we're there. We're really seeing customers recognizing that and appreciating that benefit. So back to the two problems that I touched on at the beginning. With the first problem and the fact that onboarding suppliers is a real pain, to say the least. It takes the time it can take, 4 to 6 months, costs a lot of money, and also doesn't give much visibility. Using the virtual card solution that we have in place, and the KYC and AML processes that we have in place to actually support that, you actually remove the need for that onboarding process. So that pain goes away completely because the suppliers are being onboarded as part of that virtual card process. So that was a major win for a number of these customers. The second problem we spoke about was regarding Maverick Spend and the pain of somebody having to go out of their ERP system to then actually make the payments themselves. And what I suppose this solution being integrated within a SAP Ariba or S/4HANA, for example, does is it really kind of ticks all of those boxes. So it gets rid of Maverick Spend. It reduces risk. It reduces the compliance and control concerns, and it really brings it all together, and also really improves reconciliation. So it ticks a number of boxes in terms of the problem that was kind of called out when we actually conducted our research. But on top of that, it also provides, and this is what some of the treasurers and CFOs, etc., we speak to love, it provides bottom line benefits as well. So it actually allows for working capital benefits. It allows customers to actually pay their suppliers earlier, and by paying their suppliers earlier, they can either choose to do that, or they can pay them slightly longer and get better returns for themselves, or use it to negotiate better rates with their suppliers. And also, if they're using the card rails, they get card rebates as well. So there's a number of ways that, as well as say reducing the risk and control concerns that they have with this process, it also ticks a number of boxes from a bottom line perspective as well. So has gone down really well with a number of customers we work with. Now, the second thing I want to focus on is what we refer to as Barclays payment intelligence. And I think what we've heard, particularly throughout these last 3 days, but we'll have also seen from the last few years, coming out of COVID, or sort of going through COVID, is the importance of data and payments intelligence, and particularly when it comes to suppliers. So there are a number of examples of companies in the first lockdown, for example, that were stuck at home and realizing that their processes weren't digitized when it came to supplier payments, so they weren't able to follow through with a number of these. But also, there was a lot of concern from a number of companies in terms of how I suppose, how risky is their supply chain? Did they really know their supply chain? Because there were obviously concerns about a number of them could be in trouble during the crisis. And I think now we've seen some of the supply chain challenges over the last few years, really understanding your supply chain is become even more important. Where are they based, etc., than we thought of a few years ago. And I suppose the other point to call out is hearing some of the presentations earlier about sustainability, and not just, I suppose, understanding what your customers do that you offer money to, for example, but also who your supply chain base is going to become an even more important factor for companies to understand as they move forward. And the slide talks about some of the examples of why it's really costly, right? Why it's relevant across both SME and large corporate. And some of the stats we've seen show that in the UK, SMEs alone are chasing at one time 5 invoices, every day. So there's a huge amount of chasing these invoices that intelligence can really help with. So Barclays Payments Intelligence. As I say, we worked with SAP and have utilised their cloud analytics platform to power this. But essentially, what we do, we go to customers, and we have to, I suppose, earn the trust of customers, which I'm pleased to say we've done in a number of examples. And the customers actually share their AP and their invoice data with us. And we take this AP and invoice data and we plug it into a tool where we have lots of specific kind of segmented vertical information, lots of kind of macro information that plugs into this tool. And our payments experts are able to, I suppose, turn the output from this into a real visual, easy to understand recommendation across their whole supply chain, touching on things such as X percentage of your supply chain is based here, or you've got, of your supply chain, a number of them are potentially at risk if you're not paying them on time. There's a number of factors that can actually come out of this, and it's proven really, really powerful to a number of companies we actually work with. There's a bit of an example on here, but we've recently worked with a utility company, and they were amazed when we were actually able to share back the detail on this, because it wasn't just the fact that they weren't aware of how long their tail spend was, and also the fact that they had so many one-off suppliers, but also that some of their supply chain relied on them so heavily that actually when they were paying them late, they were putting those businesses at risk. So there were a number of factors that came out of this, and quite a few more that I won't go into detail now. But what they were able to do from this, both taking the intelligence but implementing our virtual card solution, they were able to demonstrate to the business that they could drive just under £3 million worth of return to their bottom line. So a real benefit, both from a risk and a control perspective, but also a bottom line benefit in terms of how they've been able to utilise the virtual card solution and improve their supply chain. So those are the two things that I really wanted to go into detail on. In summary, I suppose the key for us on this journey, as well as working with SAP and really looking at how we could put an effective plan together, it was taking the customer problems, the customer feedback firsthand, and looking at how can we build solutions and build an outcome that actually is win-win for them in terms of kind of tackling supply chain and other issues. And obviously from a payments acceptance, taking payment side of things, we listened to the feedback, and we've made sure we've integrated across the core platforms with SAP and made access to our solutions for things such as SCA products, etc., much more easy and accessible. And then on the taking payment side, as I say, we've put a product in place that solved the challenges for risk and control around onboarding one-off suppliers, and also integrated within the solution. So actually, maverick spend and other concerns are not happening anymore. all of that combined with some of the bottom line working capital benefits I spoke about earlier. And then finally, from a payments intelligence perspective, we've put, we've allowed customers to, I suppose, have real intelligence in terms of who is their supply chain, where are they at risk, what are the opportunities, but also allowed them, I suppose, to not just understand that, but I suppose to put in place kind of actionable insights, because data's brilliant, but if you can't have clear actions from it in terms of what to do, it's sometimes not as useful as it could be. So we've been able to put that in, and that's really kind of helped improve supply chain reliability. Overall, I think it's been quite a journey for us. As I say, it's been a lot of hard work, a lot of tech hard work, and from my perspective, we're really proud of what we've done, and a big thank you to the SAP team for working with us on this journey. And also another thank you to the SAP team, because another thing we're extremely proud about was we won the SAP Innovation Award in this year, 2022. So that was a great way to look at not just the customer feedback, but also some of the industry feedback on the project. So got James from my team in the audience who's done a lot of the work. So big thanks to you as well, James. And with that, thank you for listening. I'm not sure if there are any questions.
There are. So, first question I'll start with, so you've got a few to get yourself ready. First one I want to start with is that someone's pointed out a lot of the sessions that we've had today have kind of focused on the internal aspects of the transformation programs and how that's been relevant to banks or the financial institution. But yours is an external focus. Was that a conscious decision by Barclaycard? Why the differentiation and that much more external element?
I mean, it's a really good point, and I also noted that from seeing a number of the presentations here. I mean, we do also work with SAP in terms of looking at internal infrastructure, and those are still things that we look to do. But I think for us, as I say, going back to the customer challenge, we really look at what can we do to make life easier for our customers moving forward, and being able to work with SAP on this solution just made a lot of sense. I think in general, embedded finance and integration and I suppose the expectation to be able to do a number of things, whether it's making or taking payments or just a number of things from a financial perspective, is going to become, I suppose, expected within certain systems that people are using. So for me, I suppose we're doing it because it's also part of a trend that we see growing, but also because it's really powerful now as well.
Cool, thank you. So another question that came in, you mentioned at the beginning when you surveyed the customer base, one of the things that came back through that was that SAP was a system that the integration, or it was important to see integration with. What other opportunities do you see for leveraging that SAP install base, given what you've put in place so far?
Sorry, can you say the last bit of the question again?
So what opportunities do you see for leveraging that install base on the SAP side that you can make use of with the payment?
So in terms of the integrations we've built,
Yeah.
I suppose it's a good question. I mean, for us, we built, I suppose, just a virtual card and a solution that was a bit more clunky, and having the app in place now, was an iteration of that. Then the next stage, I think, with any of these integrations, once you've built them, there's the ability to build on it and add other products onto it. So I think at the moment, having just launched, we're almost focused on how we're actually making this come to life and go forward. But I suppose in terms of the next iterations, it's how do we build on this and how do we bring some of those other value-added products in? Because I suppose from supply chain, you've also got a taking and making payment side that we're responsible for as well. So there are options on the other side of the coin to bring in and kind of build on that as well. But I suppose we're building that out rather than we've got concrete plans for that at the moment.
Yeah. And I guess the environment is so fluid at the moment. 5 years ago, no one would have imagined the impact of ESG, for example, and the focus on supply chain. So there are even undiscovered topics that may come through. Last question I've got here is...
And I've also, sorry, one thing, we try and continuously, I suppose, get the feedback. So for us, getting on, ongoing feedback from customers to change what we're doing is something that's really important, because, as you say, you can build a plan 5 years ago and it's potentially redundant at this time, based on what we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah, no, good point. So last question as it stands that I've got here. We heard in the closing keynote from Brett King yesterday about the changes around payments and the sort of experience aspect. What's your perspective on the future for payment gateways?
Very, very good, big question. I mean, I think for me, some of the things Brett said yesterday. So digitization is very key, kind of across payments, across banking, and it's one of our core focus areas as well. Digitization, partnerships, in particular, I suppose, are two areas that we're investing a lot of money in. I think specifically kind of more on the payment gateway side, or kind of other access to winning new customers. I suppose the UX journey and making life easier throughout is still going to be a really important tenet for customers. So it's definitely something that we are working on, whether it's the onboarding side of things and the fact that customers expect to be onboarded or to get access to funds within a short period of time. We're very well aware of that, and I think that's definitely part of our journey where I think payments is going in general. And I think if you are a traditional bank and you're not trying to move to digitize those processes, then we will all be left behind. I think though, when I look at some of the kind of fintech opportunities out there, there are still core places for traditional banks, banks that have built a lot of trust over the years. And my jokey reference earlier about we rock at reg is probably something that we stand by. So there are a lot of areas that I suppose will also be value adds from the business you work with, in terms of support, consultancy, and ways of processing through certain things. I think kind of alongside the UX, the customer journey, and everything that customers will expect, a core bank can actually bring a lot of those things to life and provide a lot of I suppose kind of reassurances. It's a bit like with this payments intelligence tool. Sorry, last thing. Customers trust us with that data, and I think you have to build and earn that trust over time. So I think building on that, but not just standing still, is something that every payments company, but also bank, should and I guess is focused on, because otherwise, we'll all be left behind.
Yeah, so opportunities for collaboration, as we were hearing in the panel this morning, right?
And sorry, a wider part of my role. So I'm responsible for partnerships from a payments perspective, as we spoke about. But my team also manage partnerships through fintechs, through other payment companies, and we, from a product perspective, I suppose one of the realizations that a bank like ours has come to over the last few years is we can't build and own everything ourselves. So we want to move quickly. We do so in a very measured way, but equally we can't build it all ourselves. So we bring in partners, some tech, some from other industries, but a lot of fintech or other payment partners. So for me, collaboration is going to be at the heart of where payments grows in the future as well.
Cool, really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we now have a lunch break, so please join me in thanking Stephen.